So, Gilas Pilipinas beat India by a pretty hefty margin. 1 101 to 59. That's a 42-point lead. This video is a bit late because I watched the Lebanon versus New Zealand game. I think maybe Lebanon just became extremely good. I think they're hitting their primes because Lebanon beat New Zealand that game. And maybe what the analysts or commentators have led you to believe, which is Lebanon is not that good, is not true. I'm talking to you, Winito Henson. They have the perfect size and physical attributes to beat almost any team in the region, and it showed against New Zealand. Most definitely, they're at a level that is higher than what it was before, especially since Wael Arakji is looking like a very good international player. He is really carrying this team into greater things. So yeah, Lebanon is very good. So talking about the Gilas versus India game, I mean, there's not really much to talk about. They really destroyed India in this game. Um, what I will say is that the system looks great, both offensive and defensive. Without outside noise and merely watching this game, of course, the opponent is India and not Lebanon. The system looks great. There was no Brigavanchi, who was their point guard, the guy that looks like James Harden. That's their veteran point guard, so they're severely weakened. And in the starting lineup, it was the same starting lineup that started against Lebanon, but instead of Terdi Rabena, it is Francis Lopez. In the first quarter, it was ugly for the first 4 minutes. It was 0-0. Then Terdi came in and immediately changed the game. I'm kind of surprised that Terdi Ravena is this fine. Of course, he got injured last game, and it was said that he was going to concussion protocol, but apparently not, because he was playing this game and he was playing really well. He was still aggressive. Their defense was actually pretty good. They made India have a lot of 24-second violations, but their offense was a little bit meh starting off the game. You know, when Kiambao and Abando came in with that hustle, and Kiambao is a really good player. He finds the space, he creates space with his passes, and he does take initiative and not just stand there. He does take initiative to drive to the rim or look for his pass turnaround. You know, he's a really good player. I think he finished the game with 9 assists. Just really high, especially for a guy of his size. In the second quarter, some cracks showed, especially with Boy Eram. Yeah, he's not really playing well this tournament. I think he really needs to pick it up if he's ever going to get a chance to stay in this team for next year. For me, I don't think that he should stay in this team for next year in the World Cup. In the second quarter, 30 went hot. My notes just say here 30 hot. It was more of the same of what he was doing in Lebanon, where he goes downhill on his opponents, using his quickness to his advantage. Chu was having good moments on defense. He was very solid this game, but he does risk getting into foul trouble. Maybe a lot less of what Aram does, where he puts his hand down on the opponents, but he really showed this game that he can have some defensive potential. RJ Abarientos, I think, was the only negative this game until he made two threes in the fourth quarter. He also does is not having a very good tournament. I think his style is not a match for this team. His heavy ISO style, because that's what RJ Abarientos is as a player. Parks was a little bit quiet this game. Uh, I don't think that his looks were as good as the ones in Lebanon, but he still contributed with a quiet 12 points, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals for the whole game. Terdy Ravena had 12 points at halftime, and Will Navarro had 9 points in 5 minutes after coming on. Will Navarro played really solid this game. Coach should utilize him a lot more because he provides us with that very good spot up option in the corner and some really smart play. After the break in the third quarter, that was where the lead ballooned. I think it was almost 40 points. Gilas outscored India by 31 to 10. From watching this game, I think this was a lot more comfortable from what happened last week in the qualifiers in Manila. Maybe that's just down to them reading India a lot better this game. Kiefer Rabena was a little bit also quiet here in this game. Um, I don't think that he has had the intensity, but he does find his teammates. So hopefully he does more for himself. India made some threes in the second half, but there at this point in the game there wasn't really anything to play for. In the fourth, Chu was being fed by the teammates, and I think they really put an emphasis of trying to develop Chu in this tournament. Will Navarro especially had a lot of combinations with him. One thing that's in the positive is that Gilas won the turnover battle, for example, which is very rare. Usually, this Philippine national team does make a lot of mistakes, and in this game, they rarely put a foot wrong. So yeah, and I think that's about it for the game. In terms of India, I really like the look of Pranav Prince, who was the very athletic guy on India. But when he gets to the rim, it's almost as if like it's 50-50 whether the shot goes in or not. But I like his style. He's very aggressive. Hafiz had 14 points. A very quiet 14 points. I didn't really get to notice that. I think he was the one that dunked on Carl Tamayo earlier in the game. Very much a poster. Was it Carl Tamayo or was it Yuchu? I don't really remember. Kushal Singh, their 17-year-old prospect, had 8 points and 4 steals. He was really aggressive for the limited minutes that he had. In terms of Gilas, everyone scored except Chu. I guess that's why they were feeding him in the fourth because he's the only one who hasn't scored in the game. Will Navarro had 18 with 6 out of 7 shooting and 2 of 3 from 3. Very good game. Kiefer, third year Avena, rather. Third year Avena had 17 points on 7 out of 8 shooting, 5 rebounds, and 2 steals. Everyone was in the positive plus minus this game, and they shot 60% from field goal, which is very rare from this team. Or from any Gilas team. Normally, they are inefficiency monsters. So yeah, in terms of coaching, whatever they did this game, it really asserted that they were the dominant team, both on offense and defense, because India were making a lot of mistakes against this team. And I would like to see if that can continue against New Zealand. Of course, New Zealand is like 5 times, maybe even more better than India. No offense to India. I do like some of their players on their team, but New Zealand is a different monster, especially against the Philippines. So yeah. Coach Chot Reyes also addressed the social media comments and hate that he was getting because of the Lebanon loss. For me, my whole stance on this thing is that I would prefer Chot Reyes not to be the Gilas coach. Not because he's a bad coach, but it's because, don't get me wrong, Coach Chot Reyes is a legend in the Philippine game and a very good coach. But I would like him to not be the Gilas coach because he already has so much on his plate. With him also returning to the PBA with Tokentex, I'm also not afraid to give him plaudits if he does do a lot of good things with Gilas. For example, this game with India. So yeah, hopefully that continues. Also, big congratulations to the Philippine women's national football team who made their first ever finals in their history in the AFF Women's Championship, beating Vietnam 4-0. Football and soccer is also one of my big passions. So congrats to them. If you want to support them, I think their game is on Sunday as well, before the Gilas game against New Zealand at 7:30. Gilas is at 9 o'clock. So if you're feeling a little bit passionate for the Philippines, I think you should also watch that. So yeah, Laban Pilipinas.